This is the solution to the study guide exercises in Lesson 1 for the Visual C# for Absolute Beginner video series. I'm currently looking at page 1 for the Getting Started with Visual C# 2005 Express Edition video. And there are two exercises for this lesson. And before we talk about that, I just wanted to explain kind of the intent and how to work through these exercises since this is the first video in this series. Basically, I'm just going to show you how I would go about solving these based on the instructions that are here. The intent is not to get this 100% right. I'm not sure that there is an absolutely correct answer, but the intent is to get you into the tool and working with some of the concepts that we talked about in the video. And if you can do that and accomplish that and can make some progress, then I think that that's successful. If you don't solve the exercise the exact way that I do that, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I know we're going to approach this from different perspectives, but if you're just completely stuck, you can at least see how I would go about solving the exercise. Additionally, I'll be able to throw in some hints and tips and things that maybe I didn't cover in the video here and there. So hopefully it can be used as a reference from that perspective as well. Okay, so the first exercise, the instruction is to create a new Windows Form application called My Turn. Add 3 buttons and write code behind each button that displays a message box that says you click the first button, second button, third button, and so on. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. There's a couple of different ways that we can create a new project. I think the way that we showed in the video was File, New Project. We can also go here to the Start page and select Create Project. Okay, brings up the New Project dialog either way. And I'm going to type in My Turn and click OK. And the next thing I'm going to do is go to the toolbox. I'll pin it down and I'll just drag out some buttons. I'll drag out the first one, then I'm going to double click the second one so you can see that by double clicking I can add it from the toolbox onto the designer, and we'll just drag out the third one. And the next thing that we'll do is we'll create the event handlers for each of the button click events. So I'll double click on button 1, button 2, and then button 3, and now I can work purely from the code view. So the next thing I'm going to do is show a message box dot show, and I think the phrase we're supposed to use here is you click the first button. So you clicked the first button, and I'm going to copy using Control C on my keyboard, and I'm going to paste using Control V on my keyboard. And just to show you how I was able to select everything, I held down the Shift button at the beginning of the line and then hit the End button, which is right on my keyboard above the up arrow, which selects the entire line. So that's what allowed me to navigate so quickly with the keyboard. And I'm going to paste in the third line. We'll just double click on first, change that to second, and double click that and change it to third. We'll save our application and let's run it. And we see our message boxes. Alright, so the real intent here is just to get you get your hands dirty, so to speak, opening up the Visual C# 2005 Express Edition IDE, dragging objects from the toolbar onto the design surface, writing code behind each of the click events for the buttons, and all these ideas will be expounded upon in the coming videos. But just wanted to get you into the flow, into the workflow of how to build a very simple application. Okay, so the next exercise is that it asks you to set a breakpoint on each of the 3 lines of code that you wrote, then try to walk through the code using the instructions from the video. Okay, so the way that you accomplish this, remember, is you go to this left-hand column here in this blank area, and you can just click and it'll create a little red ball with a red line for the line of code that you want to pause on. And the other way to do that is just, if you have your mouse cursor on a given line, you can hit the F9 button, and that will turn on and off the breakpoint. Okay, so there's 2 different ways you can do that. So now, let's save it and run our application. This time when we click our button, you'll notice that we get a breakpoint, and we can step through it using these little debug buttons here on our toolbar. I can step into, which continues to execute further lines of code below this line that we broke on. I'm going to hit F5 to continue running the application. Or, as you can see here, I'm going to use the step out, which will execute this line of code, then it will continue on and run the rest of the application. And then we can just use step over. Now, these buttons had a very limited use because we only had one line of code. As we begin to write layers of code using classes and other kind of structures, then they take on a little bit more meaning. The difference between step into, step over, and step out. And I believe the videos cover this later on when you get into writing your own classes and things of that nature. But at any rate, let's go ahead and continue on. Well, I think that's the end of the exercise, actually. So that's really all that I was looking for in this first exercise. It just forced you into the tool. It made you drag and drop controls from the toolbox onto the designer surface, write code, and then get familiar with the debugging tools. And that's all we really want to accomplish. Okay, so congratulations, and we will see you in the next lesson. Thank you.